What's up, you guys? It's Michael here with FPL Advice, and today we're going to go over potential replacements for Cristiano Ronaldo. As I know many of you still own him, and he has not been performing the way he did in his first 2 games at Man U. And on top of that, we're going to review different players who I think are worth considering heading into game week 10. As you all know, Ronaldo had a heck of a run in his first 2 games back in the Premier League. He was averaging 9.5 points per game in game week 4 and 5. He was getting 10 penalty touches per 90 minutes and roughly 6 shots inside the box per 90 minutes. However, if you've held him since, you know he has stopped performing this well, and he has stopped getting you 9.5 points every single game week. From the last 4 games, his numbers have dropped significantly. He's averaging 1.5 points per game. His penalty touches and shots in the box were cut in half. So if you've held him for the last 4 games, you have every right to consider transferring him out. Personally, I think if I owned Ronaldo, I would consider dropping him to a cheaper forward because Mason Mount, Phil Foden, and of course Son are performing so well. And I think that you can still have a really good cheap forward and you can improve a midfielder, especially with those 3 players performing so well. But as for Ronaldo replacements, here's a list of players I think should all be considered due to price, form, and fixtures. The 2 standouts are, of course, Jamie Vardy and Antonio. I mean, Antonio has had the highest goal involvement, points per game, penalty touches per 90, and shots in the box per 90 than any other striker in the league this year. As you can see, he's tied with Vardy at 57 points, but he is much cheaper. The problem with Antonio are the fixtures. I mean, you have Villa and Wolves, which are not bad fixtures, but Liverpool and City are. And on top of that, West Ham do have fixtures in between those games. However, it is worth noting that in the last Europa League game, Antonio did not feature in and was not even on the bench. So clearly he's getting rotated for those games, which is really good for FPL because it means that he's going to play 90 minutes in these fixtures. But again, these fixtures aren't the greatest. Vardy is another great option, but again, he did get subbed off at halftime due to a knee injury. So we have to see what happens there, whether he will be ready to play this weekend or not. Going from Ronaldo to Vardy would get you a player that has been the 2nd best striker so far this year. Leicester have decent fixtures, and of course, it would free up some money that you can improve your midfield or your defense. And the other forwards on the list I think are worth mentioning is Aubameyang, as he's performed quite well over the past few games. I personally would not go for him, especially with the fact that Saka and Smith Rowe are a lot cheaper, and I don't think that they offer less potential of attacking threat than Aubameyang, so I would prefer those 2 over him. I think Tony's statistics will improve significantly over the next 3 games, so I really do think that he can get you a lot of returns, especially with Burnley away, Norwich at home, and then Newcastle away. I think he's definitely a player to jump on, especially ahead of those 3 fixtures. Callum Wilson is only owned by 1.6% of FPL managers, so he can be a really good differential, especially after the Chelsea game, as Newcastle play Brighton, Brentford, and Arsenal. And lastly, Pukki might be worth taking a punt on. I'm not one to normally jump on Norwich assets, but I do think he's a great option here. He's only owned by 4.2% of FPL owners. He plays almost 90 minutes every single game. The next 4 fixtures that Norwich have are Leeds at home, Brentford away, Southampton at home, and then Wolves at home. So again, he could be worth taking a punt on. As for the game week 10 watch list, the players I decided to include are only midfielders because again, as for defenders, I think the only 2 that we're considering is Trent and Chilwell. And then forwards I discussed in the last slide. The standout midfielders for game week 10 are Son and Foden. I would 100% jump on Son, especially if I had the money for it. I don't think Man U are as tough of a game as we might have thought they were, especially earlier in the season. Tactically and defensively, it doesn't seem like Man U know what they're doing, so I don't think this is a bad fixture for Son. Everton away, same thing, right? Everton just conceded 5 goals against Watford, so I think that's a pretty good fixture for Tottenham as well. And then you have Leeds at home and then Burnley away. As for Foden, we do know that Pep loves this boy, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets rotated less than other midfielders at Man City, especially with the way he's been performing. He's only 21 years old, so he can keep up and he can continue to play many games, and he does not need to get rotated as much as other players do. He's averaging 7 points per game, 7.51 penalty touches, and 2.96 shots in the box per 90 minutes, which is the highest on this list. City play Crystal Palace next, and then Man U and Everton next. So similar situation to what Tottenham have. if Foden is a player you can afford, I definitely think he is one you should bring in for game week 10. Outside of Son and Foden, I think Bemo is worth having in your team if he's confirmed to be fit and ready to play by the weekend. He did pick up a minor, I think it was a hamstring injury, so we do have to watch the press conference and kind of wait to see what their coach says. And if you can't afford Foden, but you can afford Mason Mount, I don't think you should take a hit. I think you should just simply go for Mason Mount because I do see him starting the next couple of games, if not every game from now on. He's hands down our most creative player at Chelsea, so I would be shocked if we play without Mason Mount going forward. And on top of that, he did not start against Southampton in the cup game, so I can definitely see him starting against Newcastle. But that's all I have for you today. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like and also subscribe to the channel if you're new to FPL Advice. Let me know in the comments which players you're looking to bring in for game week 10. And again, thank you for watching, and until next time.